I suggest you do the same thing. Don't just play with everything on 11, but really experiment with the drive levels and your volume and tone controls on your guitar and your pickups, and you can really get some different sounds. So right now I got some reverb on. Let's add a little chorus just to show you what this amp can do. Crank the drive maybe 3/4 on this insane channel, and here it is, just playing some big chords out of Les Paul. Now if I play some lead tones, now let's say I want that concert hall sound I was telling you about before, right? I might add a little bit more chorus, and let's add some delay to the sound. Okay, now listen for the delay. Yeah, let me add a little bit more volume, so you can kind of hear that a little better. So I get that real kind of delay concert hall kind of. So you hear that delay. Cool effect, and if you have a foot switch, you can be kicking all these on and off as you set your patches to them. Now watch how I'll sound if I switch to the neck pickup. Now I'm switching to the neck pickup on the Les Paul. Maybe I'll cut back on the tone a little bit. I'm experimenting here with all different sounds. Here that delay is set pretty long. If you had a separate pedal, I mean, you could control it down to the milliseconds, whether you want the delay to be real quick, 100, 150 milliseconds, or 400, 500, with bam, 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 see? And you could control the amount of repeats, too, or feedback. Bam, 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 bam. So it's just like bam, 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 bam. That's how many times it feeds back or repeats. You can control that. Not on this amp, but if you had a more sophisticated delay. So you get this. You get some cool tone. I like that out of the neck pickup. Again, just messing around with your different settings and effects on this solid state amp. So what's cool is that whether it's at a lower volume or if I crank it louder, I'll get the same type tones. I don't have to just, like a tube amp, I don't have to just crank it to get the best sounds out of it. I can get a pretty decent sound at a lower volume, which is nice for this application, being that I'm in the studio where I can't have it too loud. So always know the application that you need, and that will kind of point you in the direction generally of what amp you need. Okay, if you're just going to be practicing in your bedroom and just need a small practice amp, why go out and buy a 100-watt Marshall stack? It's a waste, because that you really got to crank it to get the sounds coming out strong and full, but you're never going to get it that loud in your bedroom, especially if you live in an apartment. You need a little practice amp. You just pick up a little small solid-state amp, do the job nicely. They do make smaller tube amps, but again, you're going to be paying a lot more, and you really can't get as much out of them at the lower volume. They even make hybrid amps now, like where they have like a tube, one tube in the amp. So it's kind of like a combination, or like a Valvetronics, or a I've even seen pedals like that where it's just the tube, where they're getting some of that tube sound. It's kind of interesting. They're making some really cool stuff now, and we're going to be doing more modules on amps and settings and showing you a lot of other cool setups and things that you might want to consider. But the biggest thing I see a lot of players do is they don't experiment enough with their own equipment. They just crank everything on 10, and you can get so much variety and tone just by experimenting with the various pickup settings on your instrument, or the various levels on your guitar, on the amp, the EQ section, or the amount of drive, where you can get a real, like a big thing for a while is that real scooped mid sound. If you don't know what that is, a lot of metal guys use that. What they're talking about with that is, I'm going to switch back to my bridge pickup. I'm going to take the delay out, right? And so we got full bridge pickup running now. So what they'll do is they'll take all the mids out, all the mid-range. Right now the mid-range is like half. Let's see if I'll crank it down while a chord's ringing out, like a G chord. So see now? That's a real popular sound for a while. Is that real? What's a real popular sound for a while is taking all the mid-ranges, all the mid-range frequencies out of the sound. Let's put some back. See, that sounds mids back. Now I have the drive cranked. Okay, with a little bit more chorus and reverb, channel volume cranked, and you get that. And it filled up a little bit more with the chorus, but yet I got the mid ranges back in. Okay, so if we turn to this amp on my left now, there's another line 6 amp here, but this one is a little different, whereas this one at 50 watts, this is a little smaller, 30 watts of power, okay, still has a 12-inch speaker. This is a Spider 2, okay, which was the second series. They changed the color from red to black. By the way, just because these amps are not made anymore and they're up to Spider 3 doesn't mean you can't get them. You could still buy them used. Great place to buy any used gear is eBay, the world's biggest marketplace. Am I right, Tim Gilbert?
eBay is the way, good people.
eBay is the way.
You can get stuff. I used to sell a lot on eBay. That's where I learned a lot of this stuff and marketing and all that. And you can get stuff less than wholesale quality stuff. Less than wholesale.
It's true. If you're savvy and you watch when auctions end, and you could really.
And then also some people, they don't label the stuff properly. They'll put guitar or something. No, they don't put like Les Paul. There's people who find $1,000 guitars they didn't keyword it properly, so they'll sell it for $100.
Yeah, they'll spell it
You gotta
wrong.
spend some time, but
Right.
you can find treasures on there.
Yeah, you can. It's fun. So you can get these, or if you have a Craigslist in your area, which is like a
Yeah,
localized.
Craigslist is probably, you can get it cheap too.
Yeah. So check those things out and watch. You know, Craigslist has a section for musical instruments where they list guitars and amps and stuff. So just to tell you a little bit how this amp differs, because when you go into a store, sometimes it's overwhelming because it's like, oh my God, they got all these models and what sounds what.
And it's cranking the music.
Yeah, the music's loud and the amplifiers are ringing in your head. And what do I do? The first thing is try not to go to a music store on a Saturday afternoon, right? Try to go during the week, maybe on your lunch break, or try to go on a day when you don't think there's a lot of people there, because that's when I like to go, because otherwise it's just too loud and people sometimes are obnoxious. They're playing with the amp so loud, it's like you can't hear anything. How are you supposed to know? You're
I don't
making
know
a
if those
purchase.
guys can work there all day. I'd go.
Yeah, I know. I'd go insane if I had to work there all day, right? So, but know the features. A lot with amp, you're buying features. How powerful it is. Does it have one speaker or two? Does it have a 12-inch? Does it have a 10? Does it have two 12s or four 10s? We're talking about solid state here. Does it have a reverb in it? Does it have some effects built in? Does it have the capability of a foot switch? Does it have an effects loop? You know, these are all things that you might need depending on the style of music that you play. So think about, you know, the music you play. Think about your budget, obviously. If you have a $500 budget, there's no sense playing through a $3,000 amp. That has disaster written all over it because, of course, it's probably going to sound great. You know what I mean? For the most part. I'm not saying more money is always better, but, you know your budget and stick to it. And you'll be happier in the long run instead of sitting at home saying, oh my God, I can't believe I made this huge impulse purchase, right? So a lot with amps is you're buying features as well as you're paying more for tube amps. So again, what I like to recommend is if you're looking for an amp, know the application. Are you going to use it? Because if you're going to need an amp to play with a band, then obviously it's got to have enough power to be heard, you know, over the drums, right? So you can mix in with the rest of the band. Or do you want it just for practice in your room? Do you need it as a backup? Whatever the reason, know the application and know your budget, and go bring your guitar to the guitar store because you want to hear the amp true sound, not one of the guitars off the wall. Bring your guitar so you can really hear what it sounds like through your guitar. Okay, this particular amp, which would have been cheaper than this one because it's less power and doesn't have as many features. This one does not have the built-in reverb. It does have the foot switch and the headphone jack. Okay, it does have a drive channel and your bass, mid, and treble and channel volume, and it does have similar effects like the tremolo and the chorus and the echo and whatnot. Actually, it does have a reverb, now that I'm looking at this one. It's not as sophisticated. It doesn't have delay. That's what this one doesn't have. So it doesn't have all the effects, all the bells and whistles of this one, which doesn't have all the bells and whistles of the next model up, you see. One 12-inch speaker, okay, and it has the modeling modes where you got your clean. That's the other thing. This has like 4 modeling modes, where this one has 6. So you get a little bit more variation with this amp here, but this one will be cheaper. There's your trade-off. Again, not a bad sounding amp for the money. These amps that Line 6 make, they're not tremendously expensive. So I think for the money, they're not bad. Not bad at all. I like lots of different amps. I like the Fenders. I like some of the Mesa Boogies. I like the Matchless. I mean, I like lots of them. There's a lot of boutique amps out now that are cool, but we're talking about your basic solid state amps here. So I think you should go to the music store and plug through them all and find out what you like. Find out what sounds best to your ears. But go and play with it. Check out all the effects. Check out all the dials. See what it has, okay? These amps also have the ability, this one definitely, that you could save your some patches. And that's nice because you could save a certain sound, and when you hit it with a foot switch, it goes right to that sound. You don't have to reset all the dials. That's a nice thing to have. Again, a feature like that will cost more money. So I'll show you some other amps as we go on in the series, and I'll also show you some computer-based software that you can plug your guitar into an interface, plug it right into your laptop, and use some programs like Amplitude or Gearbox, where you can get some pretty cool guitar sounds through your laptop or through your desktop computer. And that technology has gotten really good. There's no more latency problems. In years past, the big problem with computer-based recording or working through your computer was like you'd hit something, hit a string or note, and there would be a delay. There'd be a latency period. You wouldn't hear it come through the speakers for a second or so, and that was difficult playing like that. That was like, you imagine playing something and not hearing it for a second later, and you're on to the next thing. It's kind of wacky. But now the technology, again, has gotten so good that there's no more latency issues with that. So I'll take you through some computer-based stuff too. I have a program made through Line 6 on my laptop that actually is how I get some really cool tones out of it. It's kind of neat and fun, and you can record. It makes it very easy to do some home-based recording that way also. All right, so enjoy your trips to the music store. Remember, the big thing with solid-state amps is that they don't require the maintenance. The pluses, they don't. The positive benefits, in my opinion, is they don't require as much maintenance as the tube amps. And by the way, they make solid-state amps with separate heads and 412 cabinets, and you could or 212. I mean, you could get a big rig set up for stage if you like solid-state. And plenty of amp companies make those. It's not just the smaller practice amps like I have here. So they sound good at low volume. They require less maintenance than tube amps, and they're cheaper, okay? And you could get more for your money, more bang for your buck, because they could build effects into the software, into them, and so you can get a lot of fun things cheaper. Do the effects sound as good as the pedals, or maybe some of the pedals or the multi-effect units for the floor? Do you have as much control over them? No. But still, it's kind of cool and fun, you know? So go play with them and see what you think and what sounds good to your ear, okay? I'm just doing some broad brushstrokes today here with these. So find out how you like the solid-state sound compared to the tube amp sound or the hybrid amp sound. And remember, application, what do you need the amp for? Remember your budget, and try them all. And don't be bashful. Go to the music store, they'll let you play them in there all day, all of them. Because they want your business, believe me, okay? Because if you buy an amp and you like it, they're going to want you to come back again and again and again. The other thing with buying an amp at a bigger store like Guitar Center or Sam Ash, they have, lots of them have, you can try it out, like a return policy, like buy the amp, use it for 30 days. If you don't like it, you could bring it back at something else as long as it's not all banged up, which is really cool because you could take it home and, you know, decide if you really like it or not over time and really work it, you know what I mean? And maybe bring it to band rehearsal or try it with your friends or something, you know? So enjoy, have fun. Remember, practice the right things. Get as much use as you can out of your equipment and spin all the dials. Don't just play with everything on 10 like Nigel, all right? And we'll see you in the next module. Rock on.
Yeah, I think that's good when you know, bring in like